Dreams are the nightlife of our imagination.
Dreams are metaphors in motion.
In this extraordinary world, we can do impossible things.
Some people have said that when we're dreaming, we're all geniuses because this unbelievable, complete and totally real world is being created in our sleep that that you could never do during the day.
Yeah.
It's astonishing to realize we spend 2 hours of every night dreaming. For most of us, that's 6 full years of our lives. But why do we dream? And what do our dreams mean? There are nearly as many theories as there are scientists studying the question. Naked in public, nightmare or fantasy? These dreams may show our fear of being exposed or a desire to shed our inhibitions. Unprepared for the exam. Often it's the people who passed the tests of their youth who continue to have this dream, long after they've finished school. Many dreamers experience terrifying nightmares in which they are attacked by a stranger. They try to scream, but no sound comes out. The best way to catch a dream is to monitor a sleeper when he enters a period of rapid eye movement or REM sleep. Tonight we join Milton Kramer, director of the Bethesda Oak Hospital Sleep Center in Cincinnati, as he tries to collect dreams from several sleep subjects. Kramer believes that dreaming is a doorway to the emotional state of our minds.
The dream opens an avenue to understand how does the mind function. One doesn't simply turn off thought when one goes to bed. The emotional preoccupations that touch your heart during the day become the stimulus for the dreams one has at night. Day is never done. Life is a continuum.
Behind the doors along this hall are a number of sleep subjects whose brain waves, breathing, and eye movements will be charted throughout the night on EEG or electroencephalograph machines in this control room. The EEGs will indicate to Kramer and his colleagues when subjects are entering the REM periods of dream sleep.
Here it comes, Rob. We're now starting to get the eye movements very clearly in the horizontal.
The telltale patterns of REM sleep, brain waves quickening almost to the frequency of a waking state, tell Kramer it's time to harvest a dream. The first subject has recently suffered a financial setback in a family business.
Hi, Sean. Sean, what was going through your mind?
It was Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And we were getting ready to sit down for dinner.
Who's the we?
I was getting ready to sit down, and a lot of people I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of poor people.
Mm-hmm.
And looked at the table, and the turkey was just a carcass.
Mm-hmm.
Kramer is exploring the connection between recent events in dreamers' lives and the content of their dreams.
The overall feeling in the dream, what would you say it was?
Unfulfilled.
Unfulfilled.
The next dreamer is a young woman who has just broken up with her boyfriend.
Candace? Do you have a dream?
Just ended
It just ended?
the dream.
Tell me what it was, can you?
First, these two girls.
Two girls.
In her dream, Candace meets a young man at a party.
And it's kind of cheesy. Then he came up to me and grabbed my hand and he's like, "Oh, you're everything he said you'd be. Blondish hair and blue eyes." And I don't know, there was just a definite, immediate, intense attraction that we knew would last for a while.
One could say that for this young woman, the reappearance of a new Prince Charming is a response to feeling bereft. She's just lost a meaningful emotional relationship with a young man, and she replaces it in her dreams. Men tend to dream about other men. Men dream about things being bigger, things being straight, things being crooked, things being full. Women, by contrast, tend to dream about both men and women. They seem to be sort of equal opportunity dreamers. Women tend to dream more about emotion, and they have more thoughtfulness in their dreams.
Kramer believes that dreams act as a kind of emotional thermostat that determines our mood when we wake up. Sean has dreamt of being stuck in frustrating situations, and after a fretful night's sleep, reports feeling unfriendly and jittery. But there is another group of people whose dreams won't even let them sleep through the night. Veterans Day in Washington, D.C. Tim Culbertson, another of Kramer's patients, is one of many Vietnam vets who suffer terrifying nightmares, a common symptom of post-traumatic stress disorder.
There's Tom.
One name on the wall holds special meaning for him.
Tom and I were real close, and Tom was from California, and we had talked about after the war, me coming out to California and him showing me how to surfboard and all that good stuff. And of course, it never got a chance to take place. Tom and I were both 18 at the time.
Tim blamed himself for the death of his friend.
I was experienced, and they would let me walk like the point a lot. And since I was experienced, I had a grenade launcher, and I'd carry a shotgun round in it. And when you're walking in the jungle, you want something like a shotgun round. And Tom had a grenade launcher, and he wanted to get a little experience and take the lead, and I let him. And within a few minutes, he was dead. I had recurring nightmares over the years about Tom, and Tom taking my place, and me holding Tom in my arms, and Tom dying, and you know, that's very possibly supposed to be my name up there, and not Tom.
Tim, how have the nightmares been lately?
Getting progressively better over the years.
With Kramer's help, Tim's ability to sleep has slowly improved. Kramer believes that Tim's frightening dreams may actually contribute to his post-traumatic stress disorder, since it's the dreams that seem to keep the war alive. Here's a glimpse of what Tim goes through. He still averages 3 nightmares a night.
In post-traumatic stress disorder, we have a failure of the dream to perform its core and central function. What happens when you go to sleep is that you have an emotional upsurge, which potentially is going to disrupt sleep. If you're a normal sleeper, what happens is you have an appropriate dream which binds that emotional surge, that emotional thrust, and you continue sleeping. If you are in a disturbed state, such as the people with post-traumatic stress disorder, when they get the emotional surge of dreaming, they're unable to have their dream life contain that experience, and they then become hyper-reactive and wake up frightened and terrified.
Tim chooses not to take medication. Instead, he has found therapy, as well as leaving bright lights on while he sleeps, to be of some help. He is able to live a fairly normal life during the day. But he has learned to live with the fact that the Vietnam War of the night may never be over.
I had a dream that I was a little girl. And my father was alive again. But this time there were two of them. An older one and a younger one. I knew my mother would have the power to choose between the two. And I was hoping that she would pick the older one so that the younger one could be for me. We went for a walk. It was a beautiful day. There were so many clouds. And I was so excited to be with my father again. But I was also anxious that he would only stay for a short time.
What comes to mind when you think about the dream?
I think about how my father used to always stand up for me when my mother would criticize me.
A vivid dream can leave us feeling as if we have been through a powerful experience.
I can see my mother's face. She's smiling at me.
In this recreation of a private therapy session, the therapist encourages his patient to explore the emotions that the dream brings to the surface.
The dream ends up like a kind of old friend tapping us on the shoulder, telling us that pay attention to this. And because we're captive to that particular dream, we find ourselves having to look at ideas and feelings that we might not want to look at. She remembers her mother as essentially somebody who would undermine her accomplishments.
Schwartz teaches dream analysis to psychiatric residents at Massachusetts General Hospital. Using dreams to understand patients is a tradition in psychology that goes back nearly a century. It's a technique developed by the father of psychoanalysis, Sigmund Freud. Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams in 1900, proposing the dream as the most direct channel to the human unconscious.
Now, when I hear that sound, what comes to my mind is Sigmund Freud slapping me. He was 80 years old, I was 2, and I sort of imagined myself crawling around at his feet, and he gave me a slap to get my teeth out of his ankles and so on. I was always told that he had patted me on the head when I was 2 years old, but I sort of think of myself as a bit of a rebel, so I like my version better.
It was here in Vienna that Ernest Hartmann was born to parents who were students and colleagues of Sigmund Freud.
Freud was immensely important. I think of him starting off all our work in dreaming in one way or another.
Freud lived and worked in this apartment at Berggasse 19 for 47 years, seeing his patients here and developing his theories about dreams. Freud believed his patients' mental illnesses and some physical symptoms came from the fact that they had repressed memories of painful childhood experiences or forbidden sexual desires. He felt that dreams symbolically represent these experiences or desires. By decoding dream symbols during psychoanalysis, Freud believed he could help patients face their hidden feelings and perhaps be cured. He wrote, "Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious mind."
Freud felt that dreams were basically wish fulfillments, and by that he meant aggressive and sexual wishes mainly. A child wanted to sleep with its parent of the opposite sex, or a child wanted to kill somebody, kill his brother, kill a parent. And, you know, these were pretty shocking ideas in the late 19th century, But now I think we can live with it much better now. We're used to thinking of ourselves as complicated creatures with all kinds of unconscious wishes.
Freud wrote that our unconscious mind is a seething cauldron of sexual wishes, drives, fears, and emotion. He brought sex out of the Victorian closet once and for all, and revealed that our inner lives are rich with hidden meaning. Freud had a colleague named Carl Jung, who went on to develop a more holistic view of the unconscious mind. Jung believed that we all share a universal memory of humankind's experience. He called it our collective unconscious, and the idea came to him in a dream.
I was in a house that I had never been in before, yet it felt like my house. The top floor was elegantly furnished with precious paintings. I walked down the stairs. Everything in the house seemed much older. I came upon a heavy door and opened it. A stone stairway descended into the cellar. I found myself in a beautifully vaulted room, the walls dated from Roman times. I saw another staircase that led into the depths of the house. I entered a low cave cut into the bedrock. All around were scattered bones and broken pottery, like remains of a primitive culture. In the cave, I discovered the world of the primitive man within myself, a world which can scarcely be illuminated by consciousness.
For Jung, dreams were the key to uniting our unconscious and conscious minds. The mandala, or magic circle, represented this goal of the self to become a whole being. No detail of a dream was insignificant to Jung. He wrote, "We can think of the dream as the mind's eye."
Some people have said that when we're dreaming, we're all geniuses because this unbelievable, complete and totally real world is being created in our sleep that you could never do during the day.
Bosnak finds that it's helpful for people to talk about their dreams in a group, such as this one, which meets outside Boston.
Bobby, please tell the dream and tell it slowly and in the present tense.
Okay. I'm in an unfamiliar place.
As Bobby relates her dream, the group members try to experience it along with her.
I'm with two friends.
Her dream begins with a journey to Brazil.
So
It will later
after
reveal itself to be linked to a powerful tragedy in her life, the death of her brother from alcoholism.
As we were going out, I saw a sign that said Sinatra Hotel. So I sort of groaned, you know, it's America in Brazil. And we went into the nightclub, and they began to play Satin Doll. And again, this feeling like, well, we're supposedly in a foreign country, but it feels very much like we're at home. So we started to leave and walked out into the main lobby. And as we get into the lobby, there's a woman. And it looks as if she's rolled up her sleeve and she's either injecting herself with something or withdrawing a bodily fluid of some kind. It didn't exactly look like a syringe. I wasn't sure what it was, but at some point her companion hands me this apparatus, and I was a little nervous about it, so I wrapped it up in something, and then I didn't know where to deposit it. We started to leave the hotel, And as we approach to push the revolving door, there was a horrible odor emanating that was like alcohol, but the kind of smell of alcohol that comes from people's pores when they've had too much to drink. Very strong odor. And then as we looked down into the revolving door, there were two bodies mangled in the revolving door. And we couldn't see one's face, but we saw the face of the other one, which was all twisted. And that's the end of the dream.
When these mangled bodies came, I could feel my whole face cringing.
Bosnak and the group describe their own physical reactions to the dream. Then they press Bobby for the feelings it evokes in her.
And what kind of feelings do you have when you smell the smell?
The first feeling is a kind of sickening kind of revulsion. And then there's pity, and there's anger.
If you're able to work on dreams into the depth of your emotion, then these emotions will start to come to the surface, and they no longer express themselves as symptoms, because a repressed emotion very easily becomes a symptom, and a physical symptom. So thereby, if you can release the emotion out of the symptom and begin to feel the emotion, then the symptom can reduce.
What is it like to be so alone and cut off and unable to communicate? What does it feel like?
It's very scary. It's very harrowing. It's like it wants to scream, but it can't scream.
Can you feel the scream?
Yeah, it's like a needle going right through. Yeah.
Do you think that your brother had that too?
I guess he did. Yeah, I'm sure he did.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike her late brother, Bobby does not have a drinking problem. But Bosnak is concerned that she still needs to come to terms with the feelings expressed in her dream.
It was very important that we got to that point of the scream and of that sharpness of the scream and of that needle, because that's the most dangerous point. If you don't feel that, then you'll start drinking against it and try to get rid of it. And it's a very dangerous feeling, because, well, your brother died of it. By making these elements of yourself conscious, you become more complete. There is more elements of yourself that you're living. You're not living life through this very small little focus of the ego, but you begin to see all kinds of other elements of yourself. And I think that therefore working with dreams can enrich life tremendously.
How do we use this nightlife of our imagination? Dreams reflect our life struggles, but can they actually help us keep our equilibrium during difficult times of our lives?
Patient reports no childhood history of allergies.
Rosalind Cartwright has studied the dreams of people going through major life crises. In fact, a personal crisis of her own was what got her started.
Oh, I became a dream researcher because I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't sleep at night because I was going through a bad time myself emotionally. Husband had walked out. I had 2 small kids, depressed, not sleeping, saying, now what'll I do with my life? Well, go back to Chicago in the first place, go back to home base, and do something else.
Cartwright set up a sleep lab and began studying the dreams of people going through divorce, such as Jane Veldy.
You were divorced how long ago?
1991, in July.
Uh-huh. So it's been a couple of years.
2 years, a few months.
And after a marriage of how long?
30 years, almost 31.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
So that was a big one to give up on. How are you doing now?
Wonderful. I keep a dream journal off and on.
Cartwright has found that people who pay close attention to their dreams seem to recover sooner from major life shocks like divorce. Her theory is that dreaming helps to put us back on course after such experiences.
We need to dream and do a lot of dreaming because we need to keep our sense of identity intact and do a lot of emotional homework in our sleep. We do very little attending to who we are, how we're doing in the world, and keeping a sense of self in balance and intact. During the day, we're too busy with reality. We're too busy putting bread on the table and staying out of the way of trucks. You know, doing the moment-to-moment survival to kind of look at the picture of where we are we on the right path? Do I need to change focus? That seems to be the work of the night.
Cartwright tries to help her patients understand the very condensed language of their dreams.
Dreams are metaphors in motion. I can remember a very nice one that a man who was being divorced, and it was his choice to leave the marriage. And he dreamed he was cleaning out the garage.
I piled all the summer furniture and other equipment at the end of the driveway while I swept the place out. Another guy came along in a pickup truck and helped himself to my furniture. I yelled at him, "Hey, that's my stuff."
That's my stuff. Well, you shouldn't have left it out there for anybody else to take.
And he woke up and he said, uh-oh, I'm not quite ready, as I thought I was, to leave behind all that good stuff of the marriage and have somebody else come along and get it.
Cartwright herself has had ample experience with dreaming and life crises.
I had a lot of dreams when my oldest daughter was killed suddenly in a motor vehicle accident. And I grew her up all over again in my dreams. I used to dream first that she was a toddler in a snowsuit. She died at age 28. But I went through rescuing her from a whole variety of things over her whole lifespan before I saw her finally as a grown-up and a colleague. She had a PhD, and I dreamt I met her at a convention at a very busy elevator, waiting for an elevator in a big crowd. And she stood next to me, and I said, "Christine, I thought you were dead." And she said, "Oh, I am. I just came to be with you till you got used to the idea." And I thought that was so like her and so comforting that I could keep her in a dream and visit her as an adult, that I stopped having the bad rescue dreams, because you really can't rescue somebody who's already gone.
The sleeping brain resembles a city at night. Certain functions are shut down, but others are quite active, as the rich dream world of the imagination is constructed. But exactly how the brain creates a dream has long been a mystery. The breakthrough discovery of rapid eye movement sleep came in 1953 at the University of Chicago, where Eugene Azarinsky and Nathaniel Kleitman were studying the eye movements and brain waves of people as they fell asleep. The EEG charts showed that the sleepers' brain waves were very active, and their eyes were moving rapidly beneath their closed lids. Kleitman and Azarinsky deduced that this active state of the brain during sleep was associated with dreaming. William Dement confirmed their findings.
This discovery kind of jolted everybody, because the prevailing notion was that sleep is a time when the brain turns off, and the eyes moving as rapidly as they do in the waking state was just, unexpected. Then there were some other physiological changes. The heart rate increased, the breathing increased, And Professor Kleitman had the sudden insight, maybe this is excitement of the dream.
A pioneer in the field, Dement is also noted for having discovered the 90-minute human sleep cycle, which for most people recurs 4 or 5 times each night. Dement observed that newborns spend 8 hours a day in REM sleep, and newborn kittens nearly the full 24 hours. Many scientists think that REM sleep in young creatures is crucial for the development of the central nervous system. It has also been discovered that the brain shuts down our muscles during dreaming. Except for our eyes, toes, and fingertips, we are effectively paralyzed during our dreams. Men experience erections during REM sleep, and women an equivalent sexual arousal. But there is a rare group of people, mostly elderly men, who are anything but paralyzed during their dreams. When the motor inhibition of normal dreaming fails, victims of REM sleep behavior disorder attempt to act out their dreams. Many actually punch their spouses or injure themselves. Others, like Donald Dorff, just go out for the winning pass.
One night I dreamt that I was playing football as the right halfback, and the play called for me to receive the ball laterally and make a cut and go over tackle. There was a 260-pound tackle there waiting for me, so I says, I'll give him my shoulder and run around him. And I went to give him my shoulder, and that's when I hit the dresser and knocked everything off and broke the mirror and cut my head and woke up, of course.
Mr. Dorff, so good to see you again.
Fortunately, researchers here at the Minnesota Regional Sleep Disorders Center have found that this strange condition can be effectively treated with medication.
So the medication is still working pretty well.
No one knows the exact cause, but scientists suspect it's neurological and related to aging. The sad thing is, since this disorder is so little known, it often goes misdiagnosed as a serious psychiatric illness. What is the brain doing while it's sleeping and dreaming? No one knows for sure, but there are many theories. Some scientists compare it to a computer that goes offline at night, closed to external inputs, but still quite busy downloading files used during the day. In 1983, Nobel Prize winner Francis Crick proposed that dreams are a kind of wastebasket for the brain. He argued that we dream to forget, to reduce fantasy and obsessive, bizarre modes of thought. Dreams are a way for the networks of the brain to avoid gridlock, and the things we dream about may be better off forgotten. In 1977, Harvard University's Alan Hobson and Robert McCarley developed their theory of the dream generator. According to their hypothesis, the raw material of dreams comes from the random firing of neurons in a primitive part of the brain called the pons. These electrical signals travel up into the cortex. The cortex then attempts to construct a story to impose meaning on these chaotic impulses. It's as if the neurons firing provide a series of random dots, and the cortex tries to connect those dots into a coherent picture. Hobson thinks that's often a hopeless task.
The brain is always trying to impose meaning on whatever signal it gets, whether it comes from the outside world in waking or whether it comes from inside our heads during sleep. I mean, that's the job of the brain. It's the repository and creator of all meaning. And so when we're asleep and our brain turns on and we start receiving these goofy signals from inside our head, we think we're awake and we make up a story to go with it.
By discounting the meaning of dreams, Hobson has aroused criticism from a generation of dream interpreters. While he doubts that dreams hold important meaning, he nevertheless markets a device he calls the nightcap that people can use at home to collect their dreams. The device detects eye movements and can be attached to an alarm clock.
Okay.
Hobson finds that one has much more interesting dreams in one's own bed than in a lab.
Oh, let's see. I was having this wild dream about going up some steps with a Japanese guy. It was amazing. The water was coming down over the stones, and it was absolutely crystal clear and beautiful. And there were trout jumping out of the stream all over the place, and I suddenly remembered the Japanese word for trout, which is ayu. And then he told me that he had to go get his diving gear or his fishing gear in order to get ready for New Orleans. And we went along this walk, and then suddenly we were inside a huge Chinese pagoda, and the stream was still there, the trout were still there, the stones were still there, but there was an alpine backdrop like one sees in Switzerland. Everything absolutely surrealistic, clarity.
Our feet are wet, and he's complaining a bit about it. And I say to him, you can probably see this all the time you want in Japan, but in the United States, I can assure you this is quite unusual.
While Hobson enjoys tracking his own dreams, their chaotic raw material and bizarre shifts of scene lead him to doubt the validity of most dream interpretation.
Well, I think it's a fool's errand, really. I mean, although I indulge in it myself, I have to admit that I don't really know what I'm doing when I set out to interpret a dream. And it seems to me that this is a kind of a very understandable human quality to want to understand the things, but maybe they don't have any profound meaning. It's hard to imagine why we forget them if they're so all-fired important. I think that nature accords them relatively low level of significance for us, and therefore the interpretive effort might just be engaged in for fun and let it go at that.
Fool's errand or deadly serious? William Dement has personal reason to believe in the meaning of dreams.
Years ago, I was a very, very heavy smoker, and I had this incredibly vivid dream. I had a cough, and one day I was coughing, and in the handkerchief there was some blood.
Well?
I had a chest x-ray. My friend, the radiologist, put the x-rays up on the viewing screen. I saw the cancer. And in that moment, I knew my life would soon end. And it was just overwhelming that I wouldn't see my children grow up, wouldn't see green grass. It was just tremendously powerful. And then I woke up and, oh man, I can still remember it. The relief was so real. A second chance to be reborn, but the main thing was I had experienced cancer of the lung, and I knew that was a totally unacceptable alternative. I never smoked another cigarette. That dream saved my life.
A powerful dream can affect us deeply, but is the meaning in the dream itself, or in how we choose to interpret it?
One sort of says, well, you bring the meaning to the dream, or is it intrinsic to the dream? One has to sort of step back from that and look at life and then recognize that in a very real sense, all of life can be looked at as meaningless. And the demand, if you will, on the person as you become a human being is to recognize that one infuses life with meaning, and that's what makes it tolerable and truly human. In the same way with dreams and dreaming, we all live with a system of meaning. And what we have to learn is how do we metaphorically express that meaning system in dreams so we can understand life and ourselves better.
Even children's dreams may hold up a mirror to their anxieties and help parents better understand them.
Okay, guys, time to wake up. It's breakfast.
Boston psychoanalyst Wynne Schwartz is the father of 2 boys. Since he and their mother have separated, he doesn't get to see the boys every day as he used to. He finds he learns a lot by just talking with them about their dreams.
Want some syrup? They get to practice things in their dreams. And they get, I think, to work out the conflicts that they experience in the family. Sam has a dream about a witch chasing him in a haunted house.
Well, you and me were in a haunted house and sitting on the staircase, and then a witch just basically came out of nowhere, and she was chasing me, and she said that she was going to eat me. But
There's a witch chasing him and a father, me, who is sitting there doing nothing. And I think that was a frightening circumstance for him.
She came like this close to catching me.
How'd that feel?
Pretty scary.
So how did you feel when I didn't do anything, when I just sat there?
I couldn't blame you because it was just a dream, and since it was
And he very quickly tells me that it's no one's fault, that in dreams you can't blame people for not coming to your aid. So the dream in some ways must be a story about something he's feeling about what's happening here, something that he really can't escape, and something he can't really feel like he can get help with. Did you want me to help you, though?
Well, yeah, I guess.
We have to walk out a little ways, and then, Graham, you're going to run. Children are small, they're vulnerable, they're dealing with powerful forces around them, and so much opportunity, and so much to learn, and so much to try to master, that often it seems to be somewhat overwhelming. You ready? On your mark. Get set. Run. Run. The other way, Graham, this way, this way, this way. Just as adult dreams will show their ongoing efforts to represent the problems of their lives, children's dreams will represent their own problems. In this very large world, it's quite natural for their dreams to represent their vulnerability.
Our dreams enable us to explore new worlds of our own creation. But at times, they also reveal our deepest fears. Our habits of dreaming may even provide a window on our personalities. Based on studies of dreamers, one researcher has developed a new theory of personality types called boundaries in the mind.
Well, what I've found is that people who have a lot of dreams, people who remember dreams a lot, and especially people who have nightmares a lot, are people who have thin boundaries. And by thin boundaries, I mean boundaries in many, many different senses. Boundaries between different sensations, boundaries between thoughts and feelings, between sleeping and waking, between dreaming and waking, between fantasy and reality. But the opposite, I've seen quite a lot of people who have very thick boundaries. They usually don't remember dreams, they don't have nightmares, and they keep everything very separate.
Evan Elkington is a successful sales engineer who has enjoyed competing in sports since he was very young. He's a good example of Hartman's thick boundary profile.
You just had to describe your child in a few words. What kind of a child were you? What kind of a kid were you?
Yeah, I think I've always been very competitive and aggressive throughout my childhood, and I think that came from my older brother always pushing me.
All right. Did you spend much time in kind of fantasy or daydreaming, reverie?
I wouldn't call it fantasizing or daydreaming. I would say it'd be more of planning.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your dreams at all?
No, I can't remember the last time I had a dream, to tell you the truth.
Evan is one of many people who live a happy and successful life without paying any attention to their dreams.
Were you artistic at all? Were you involved in painting, music?
No, mostly math and science were my best courses in school.
Hartman has found that thick boundary people often find occupation as lawyers, engineers, and military officers.
Yeah, I'd say so.
By contrast, he finds people who are strongly influenced by their dreams tend to have thin boundaries and quite different occupations.
I've gotten to know a lot of people who have very, very thin boundaries. I have fairly thin boundaries myself, but the people I think of who have the thinnest boundaries have, first of all, they never have typical blue-collar or white-collar jobs. They do something unusual, and generally it's something artistic, creative. So they're artists, they're painters, poets, musicians, whatever. And furthermore, they often use their dreams or nightmares in their work.
I've never had a morning where I didn't remember a dream.
Marcia Smilak, a writer and photographer, lives on Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts.
Dreaming is important to every aspect of my life. It's such an integral part of the creative life, whatever that is, that I couldn't really separate it out. It is the same thing. It's the same images. What I do, I call it painting by camera. I sit here and I, in a sense, let the water be the canvas. And I watch these different pictures get painted by the movement of the water and the tide and the light and all that. And when I see a picture that I like, the camera is my paintbrush and I take it.
Marcia creates abstract, dreamlike images with her photography, and she draws on images from her dreams in her writing as well. But her sensitivity and thin boundaries may at times make her vulnerable to depression.
So you're a finder of beauty, and I guess you always have been.
I think also a finder of sadness, which doesn't seem so contradictory to me.
Yeah, can you give me some idea of what your dreams are like? Can you tell me a recent dream?
Sure. This was a dream actually I had about 10 years ago, but I never forgot it. And in real life, I was in the process of ending a long relationship, and I was in fact depressed. And when I went to sleep, I had a dream that this boyfriend and I were sitting in my den, and I understood that I would die unless he stayed in the house until 6 o'clock. And luckily he was there, and I was feeling very relieved. And suddenly, it was about 10 of 6, and he stood up and he walked out the door. I next arrived at a cemetery, and there was this low-rent preacher waiting for me. I remember he had on a gown that was too short, and you could see his pants and cowboy boots, and he was holding a can of Colt 45 beer. And I remember thinking, cheap beer. Anyway, he walked me over to where I was going to be buried, and in the middle of this cemetery was this grand piano with the lid open. And I walked around and looked inside, and there was this outline of my body, like police make when they find a body, only it was little yellow pills. And in the dream, that was where I was going.
Marcia's dream came at a time when she was taking antidepressant medication. It was also the time when she began to take up photography.
And over time, I came to think about the piano and why a piano? And I've decided, it seems obvious to me that it's because a piano is a place where you create art, not a place where you bury people. And so the combination of the pills, which I was taking to give me some sense of structure or boundaries or control, that was one version of finding a shape that would fit. But art was ultimately what saved me, and what I think could save anyone.
Dreams are what we make of them. Some people may live well without ever remembering them. For others, dreams become a kind of second life. We have reason to be intrigued by our dreams. They are among the most amazing things our minds create. It's been said, dreams are real while they last. Can we say more of life?